is a community that centers working moms and offers resources to help working moms balance work, wellness, and womanhood. We profile everyday women to show you how to live abundantly, love your babies, and level up in your career. Welcome to Women Work Well. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, Sam.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing this
You
morning?
have this super chill, calm demeanor.
It's a
I
work
can
in
appreciate
progress.
I can appreciate that. So y'all, Women Work Well is a community that centers working moms and helps working moms balance work, wellness, and womanhood. We are here to help you love your babies, level up in your career, and live abundantly. My guest today is amazing. I want to turn it over to my friend Sam to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Sam LeCointre, and I am a mother of two, a kindergartner and a fourth grader. I have my own practice in mental health. I am a therapist. I'm provisionally licensed, so that means that I graduated last spring with my master's degree, and then I decided to jump into the world of private practice. It's something I knew I always wanted to do, and so I started that in September.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. It was so amazing to see you achieve that. And sort of life sometimes takes detours, but I love that you followed your passion. It was so great to be there to celebrate with you.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about your working mom life. So you're you just finished school, you're an entrepreneur, you have younger-ish kids. So what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I would say where I am presently is very different than where I was when I began my journey in motherhood. When I began my journey, I was just fresh out of undergrad. I got my degree in social work. I had dreams of, moving on and getting my master's and becoming a, a clinician at that time. And when you become a mom, life puts some speed bumps in your plan. And so, a long story short, it took me a while to get to where I am. But today, I'm a single parent, and my journey into where I am today in my career has not been easy, but it's been so worth it.
I love that. It's reminding me of a word for the day, persistence,
Mhm.
right? So it really, really, really doesn't matter where you start, it matters where you finish. And so I have a feeling that there are mamas out there who have had to put their career on hold or allow a dream or something that they were passionate about to take a back seat. And I love that you shared, you kind of took this winding road, but you still accomplished your goals. So for me, that says, don't let your dreams die. That's so
Right,
powerful.
right. I think the most limiting belief we can put on ourselves is that there is a time frame in which we want to accomplish a goal. But we have to understand that the only time frame that we put on ourselves is that in which we've created. And so if you begin to understand that you're focusing on the goal and not the time, then the pressure and the anxiety and the expectation of success is diminished or minimizes itself.
That's a hard thing. The
Really hard.
expectation of success.
Mhm.
Like, do you think that's even more pronounced for women?
Absolutely. I think that, there's this shift, when the feminist movement happened, we all decided that, we were going back to work, we were going to do our careers, but we were going to be like these strong moms and involved in our kids' lives. And the idea of balance is a beautiful idea, but I don't know if it's achievable, especially in today's society. I think that we have to really alter our expectations and really readjust the vocabulary of what success looks like and how we're measuring it. Because this girl boss hustle culture, that's all fine and dandy, but it is not working. And that is what I'm seeing in a lot of my sessions.
Give me some snaps. Just the idea of hustle harder, like, don't sleep, keep working.
Yeah. It's unachievable. You all of a sudden have these moms who are putting all of this pressure on themselves that they don't need because you're already carrying the weight of motherhood, the weight of the mental load. Moms are the CEOs of their household, whether they want to be or not. Like that's just who they are. That's the drive that we have, and we are not great at delegating. And the idea of delegating is scary sometimes because we have to let go of control.
Which is hard if you're a control freak, like me,
Absolutely.
for a friend. But I do. So you said this idea of balance. Do you believe balance is a fallacy for mamas? And if so, how would you reframe it?
I think that the idea of balance in today's society is unachievable. We have been fed this idea that we can have our careers and we can have motherhoods. We can achieve motherhood and be those like parents that pick up their kids, drop off their kids, go to all the activities. It's not possible. Our biggest systemic issue right now is childcare. We can see that with the change in the seasons of COVID, right? Moms are trying to figure out. I mean, we've had 1.1 million moms leave the workforce since the pandemic began. That's a huge concern. And so I think that we really as a society need to readjust what is actually capable and possible for moms today.
And so, does that mean like just give up, stop trying, or does that mean, okay, I want to be at all 7 games, but realistically, I can only make 5, and like making peace with that? How do you sort of think about that?
Right. Well, I think that what I love about, where I am today is mom guilt is so strong. It begins the moment that you conceive or you have a baby put in your home in your hands, whether you're a mom, you're a parent, like that's when it begins, that guilt, that parental guilt. And it really shifts depending on what it is and where you are in life. But the important thing to recognize with it is that you're not trying to dismiss it. You're not trying to get rid of it. You're trying to coexist with it. So just like you said, like maybe I can make 5 games, not 7. And you just coexist with the guilt. You talk with the guilt. Like, I don't need you to run my life. I am doing the best I can with what I have. And I know that I'm a good mom because my kids are doing okay. We're making connection. And that's the most important thing today. It's not how much time you're spending with your kids. It's the quality of time you're able to present your kids with.
I feel like that's an affirmation. I'm doing the best that I can. Like, my kids are doing okay. I know during the pandemic, it was all of these things like, okay, so their social life is altered and they can't do the activities, and
And
you
you're on
know,
100% of the time.
right?
That was the shift that mom saw. There was no break. You are it. You are the entertainer. You are the one who's prepping their meals. You are the teacher. You are then doing all the roles that schools have been doing for our kids or childcare does for our kids. And then you're the CEO and you have your own job.
So I started saying, like, my kids are happy, my kids are healthy, I'm winning. And
Yeah.
like that became the standard. Are we finding time to sit and laugh and chat and giggle? Are they continuing to thrive? Do they feel good in their soul? Like that became my new measure. And I can't do it all. And just sort of realizing that gave me a sense of freedom.
Right. And again, it goes back to the connection that you're making with your kids. We spend today in today's society, we spend more time with our kids than single moms did in the 1970s. So that's a big shift for parents. We are on a lot more than we used to be, and than your parents or my parents or our grandparents. And so we have this expectation now where we have to be on, and that always being on has to be quality time. And it doesn't have to be. Research is showing that kids need 30% of connection every day to have a secure attachment style. And that secure attachment style gives them that sense of safety, that sense of security, that loving, that kindness, that wholehearted just protection that parents offer kids. And when we start to be difficult, like, or when we start to criticize ourselves for what we're not doing, then we're interfering with that connection right there.
So, what if, I'm thinking about, like, a stay-at-home mom, and she's like, "Well, I give my kids 70%." Are you saying that's bad? So, explain that a little bit more.
No, it's not bad. It's great. There are some moms, I mean, I was a stay-at-home mom for a few years, and it was one of the hardest times of my life because I I knew I needed to be in the present moment, but all I could think about was the dishes, the laundry. This kid isn't taking a nap. I got to go pick up the other kid from school. Like, what am I going to make for dinner? The house is a mess. The dogs need something. Like, all I could think about was all the tiny minutia in my day. And I couldn't necessarily be present in the moment of taking care of my kid and building that connection because there's so much weight that's put on us, even when we're stay at home parents. It's not an easy job.
Stay-at-home parenting is so hard, and it's a lot of times isolating. So,
Mhm.
if you yourself are a stay-at-home mom and you're tuning in, I just, sending you all of the love.
Yeah.
And that's why this community was created, to have a space for moms to have real life conversations. And I love what you said. I've never been a stay at home mom, but I'm thinking about my time on maternity leave. And, it
Mhm.
should be this wonderful, beautiful, time of bonding. And, I'm singing to the baby and I'm reading and we're listening to classical music together, is what I thought was going to
Yeah,
happen in my head.
it's
But
nothing like that.
right? Because it's really like, "Oh my gosh, I gotta start another load of clothes," or, "Oh, I forgot to get groceries," and, "Let me put the baby in this little rocker and, keep them occupied." So it wasn't that intentional quality time that you're mentioning.
Right, right, and I think that, I talk to moms today, and there's these wonderful services, thanks to COVID that we now have at our fingertips. We have Target Drive Up, we've got Instacart, we've got all these things where the resources can come to us, but there was a time when that didn't exist.
Right.
And even more so, you talk about being isolated in that experience. What I see a lot with first-time moms is that they are having this identity crisis. Nobody
Mhm.
talks about what it's like to have an identity after you have a child. You don't get to go out with your friends all the time. You're constantly have that mom guilt. That's the new thing that you aren't used to. And you're trying to balance, like, who am I, but I'm constantly attached to this other human. And then the shift from going from one to two is, again, it's balancing all the tiny details of motherhood.
So, you said many things. Can you still hear me? I switched microphones.
I can.
Okay, y'all drop me a note in the chat to make sure y'all can still hear me. So you talked about a couple of different things. We talked about your stay-at-home mom season. Talk to me about
Mhm.
your single mom season and, like, what that has meant.
Single mom season is hard. It is hard, but it is good. It's a different kind of good. We have to prioritize things very differently. Again, you're on more. There's not anyone to delegate. So if you see dishes in the sink, those are dishes that are waiting for you. So how I, work with my kids today is we talk about teamwork. Like, hey, if you don't pick that up, who do you think is going to pick it up? We talk about just like how we can help one another. There's a lot of sadness and guilt that comes into being a single mom, but at the end of the day, um, you go back to your focus, which is, are my kids happy? Are they healthy? Are their needs being met? Yes, I'm doing a good job. I'm doing the best I can.
I love that. And I was, like, chuckling because you're like, when you walk by and see those dishes, those are your dishes.
Yep. It's your laundry that you're going to be folding. It's those dishes. Like, there's nobody to delegate to. There's nobody to have an expectation. And I don't know if that's better or worse. If you have a partner and you're like, don't you see these things? That's the number one stressor that I hear from moms is, can't he see this or can't they see this? And it's no. You got to talk. You got to communicate. You've got to point things out. Unfortunately, like, that's just how it works.
So I love this idea here,
Yeah.
that Dawn shared. She said she put her kids on a schedule. So I like the idea of, planning and blocking time. And it could just mean like, I don't care what is happening, but from 4 to 5, my kids have my undivided attention, right? And maybe just chunking your day out in that way will create that moment where you don't feel guilty for all of the things that you aren't doing and all of the household and life stuff that you got to take care of. But I am giving dedicated 100% fully present time to my kiddos. So I love that idea of kind of scheduling time in.
Yeah, in our household, I think what's made a big difference, especially since it's a single parent household, is, kids, they thrive on routine, they thrive on structure, they need it. When they don't have it, you're going to see these patterns of behavior that you don't necessarily love. And so for us, it's like dinner time is a time where we put all screens away, we sit down, we focus, we connect, we check in with one another. And we know that that's something that we have to look forward to every time the kids are with me.
So this particular session was all about mental health. What do you say for moms who are like trying to hold it together and it just feels so hard? What can you offer?
It's a season. You got to take it 1 hour, 1 minute, one day at a time. The seasons, I remember when I was a young parent and, these older, wiser women would come up to me and I would completely hate their unsolicited advice. But it was true. It was the days are long, but the years are short. And with kids and how quickly they grow and how their milestones are changing constantly, their ages are changing constantly. You're going to be doing different things at different times. The grass is not greener; it's just different, and it's going to get easier, just a different type of easier.
So for the mom who is like past that point and is like, I'm about to lose it,
Yeah,
what do you say for her?
you got to reach out and ask for help. There is so much shame that moms have. Our culture is really big on it for asking for help. It's this idea that if we asked for help, then we couldn't do it or we failed at it. We have to let that go. There is not failure. There's no failure in asking for help. It is actually brave and courageous to ask for help. It's admitting I can't do it all. And then it's giving permission for another mom to recognize, like, oh my God, like she doesn't. I had this idea that she had it all together, but she actually asks for help because stuff gets hard. And that's the thing that we need to display as moms is that we don't have it together all the time and that we need to show our imperfections and that this idea of making sure that we you know dot all the i's and cross all the t's is not helping anybody, including ourselves.
You like hit a nerve, and um because I think perhaps it is the faith tradition I grew up in, but I had this vision of like what motherhood meant. And it was like
Mhm.
Susie Homemaker, you have fresh baked, rolls when the family gets home, like
Right,
everybody
you
is.
make your baby's baby food like.
But the thing is, like, I'm laughing, but I try to do all of that, like, I'm
Mhm.
nursing, but then I'm also sexy, for my partner, but then and so it's like this image, and I think trying to live up to that image is actually what made that season of motherhood challenging, and
Mhm.
when I finally said, "You know what? This is the best that I can do," right? I can't do all of the things, and it did feel like I failed in that moment. But what you're giving people the permission to see is there is no ideal that you have to attain. Literally, you have to take it day by day and do
Mhm.
the best that you can do in that moment.
Right. And, I think one of the things that a lot of moms I've talked to have mentioned that is difficult is, when you're entering parenthood, whether it's your first child or you're adopting or, however you become a parent or a mother, um, you're given all these gifts, here's all these tools that you're going to need to take care of this kid. And here's all these, clothes and
Gadgets.
and gadgets, but no one says what are your supports look like? What do you need? What do you think that you're going to need after this baby is born? One of the things that providers aren't asking, pregnant mothers is, what does your mental health look like when times have gotten really bad? And what did you do? What were your supports in those moments? And checking in with their patient or their clients to make sure that the same patterns don't occur when this big life transition happens.
So if you had to come up with like a checklist for somebody who was in it and they're like, you were talking to me right now, for somebody who feels like they are struggling from a mental health perspective, and you had to give like a checklist, like here are the things you need, and whether that's like, a supportive confidant, a counselor, like what would you say are the things that people can start adding to make sure that they're well as they approach their motherhood journey?
Yeah. So I think reaching out to other moms, seeing if there's like mom groups. One thing that I stumbled across when I was a young mom was there was a mom group in my neighborhood. And once a month, they all got together and we collaborated. It didn't feel like we were comparing, you know, who does what better. It was a collaboration. And then, there are stroller groups. There are like just finding groups that get you out of the house, that get you connected to other moms, that get you connected to community. If you're faith based, reach out to people in your faith and see if there's a community that can organize meal trains, or figuring out how, someone could come over once a day and do your laundry. Like, these are very simple, basic things. And I know that not everybody has the resources to do everything, but, therapy is great before you, become a parent and after you become a parent. Telehealth is this new option that, COVID gave us that a lot of therapists offer now. So there was this expectation for moms that, like, I can't leave the house. I can't get out of the house. I can't find a sitter. I can't afford a sitter to go to therapy. Well, now, if you have a routine and your kid is a great napper, I know that's really hard. You can sign up for virtual sessions with therapists. So there's options out there, and it's to stay connected with your friends and your community, to not withdraw, not to isolate, and to have someone that can be your accountability partner, to say, hey, can you check in with me like weekly to just make sure that I'm not like going down the rabbit hole in parenthood?
So I hear you say community, and
Mm-hmm.
we focused heavily on like early stage motherhood, but you still need community like when your kids are older or high school or navigating various life changes.
Absolutely.
That sort of keeps you grounded, right? And you said therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Therapy. I love what you said. Therapy is great before motherhood and after motherhood. So talk to me about, if there's a mother out there listening who is dealing with the guilt and the shame and is kind of like, I know I need to talk to a counselor, but I feel judged. I feel like, I should be able to handle this. Talk to me through like the tape that they can start to tell themselves to make it okay to pursue some therapy.
Yeah. So what I would say in the very beginning is you have to let go of the what ifs and the should haves. And you don't should on yourself. That's the big thing. You've got to let go of those limiting beliefs. It's really, really difficult. And take the first step and talk to a friend and say, hey, I'm struggling. And ask, or, talk with your partner. Ask someone to help you begin the process of finding someone to talk to. Because that process in and of itself is daunting. There's so many therapists out there, and you're just like, I don't even know where to begin, and I don't know which one is the right fit. If you want to use insurance, you have to, call your insurance. There's directories. How do you? So what's beautiful about these online directories is you can go on there, you can check boxes, filter out a bunch of people, focus on, what you want to talk about, what kind of therapy you want, if you want male, female, if you want to use your insurance, if you don't. And that really limits it down. And then you can always ask, a partner, again, like I said, or someone else to reach out for you if you don't have the time or the capacity or the space.
So I love that you just broke it down so simply. You talked about, if you are wanting to start counseling, there are online resources, and that
Mhm.
includes Psychology Today, that
Mhm.
includes Therapy for Black Girls, which has that cultural sensitivity. But on all of these sites, you can filter. You can say, I want someone who has strong cultural knowledge of the LGBTQIA community, or I want someone who is committed to racial equity. And you can sort
Mhm.
of decide what is meaningful to you. People will have their profile. And a lot of times, counselors will give you a free sort of 15-minute session where you can say, I'm thinking about counseling, tell me about your process, or
Yes.
tell me, how you run your practice. And you can ask questions. And it's like when you meet somebody and you can meet somebody and be like, oh my gosh, they were so great. Or like,
Right. There's a lot of people who have this idea that the first therapist you find and you meet is the therapist that you're going to be working with. No, you are interviewing them. Remember, you're paying them for a service. And if you don't feel the fit, you're not going to have you're not going to have the help and resources you need. So that's where like you said, that free 15-minute consultation, you're interviewing them, you're asking them questions. It's okay to ask them if racial equity matters to them, where they stand on certain issues, just to make sure that you're finding a like-minded therapist. You can ask a therapist if they're a mom, if they're not, if they're a parent, if they're not. Like these are okay questions to ask therapists. I know that there has been a long-standing stigma of that's not an appropriate thing to ask because we're some sort of professional. But I tell my clients, I do not want to be placed on a pedestal. I am here because you need access to resources. I have some of those resources. I have some of the tools that you need, but I am not to be placed on some sort of pedestal. Like I know your life better than you do.
So it sounds like ask the questions and find the person who works for you. And there's no shame in, letting go of a counseling relationship and starting a new one, because it has to work, and it
Right.
has to work in that season, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
and so
And
I
there's
think
a lot of resources out there too that offer free or sliding scale costs. So, when I was in grad school and I was doing my internship, I worked at an organization called Walter's Walk. I offered free services to individuals who couldn't afford mental health therapy or support. And that's a beautiful offer, like
when we
service.
bombard the chats on wherever you're watching, if you know of mental health resources, go ahead and drop them, because people will watch the replay. So please
Mhm.
help us encourage others to take that important step. I saw a note that, this idea, you've said it many times, but that like for single parents, there is no break. There is no like tap in. I always think of WWE. I don't know why.
Right. That's how it is some days. Some days that's how
Like,
it is.
stagger it, like,
Yeah.
here's this tiny human. So for that mama, could it be like, grab your kids, everybody's getting in a car, and we're going to a park.
Yeah.
And the kids may be playing, or the kids may be on their phones, but they're going to be on their phones right here. And it may give you just 30 minutes of solace to read a book, pop in some earbuds, listen to Audible, like whatever the thing may be. But what other ideas do you have for single moms who need a break?
Yeah. So, that's the really hard transition into single mom life is you've got to find other single moms. They know the experience that you're going through more so than some of your married friends or partnered friends. You've got to talk with them. You got to build that community with them. They have an understanding and an empathy that they can offer you that nobody else can. And then you got to really find resources. So what I love is that, I moved into my place 4 years ago, and I've just started befriending a lot of my neighbors, and I rely on them. Like sometimes they take my kids go up to their house and play for a little bit so I can just get a load of laundry in or cook dinner in peace. I have a neighbor next to me who opened up their yard to my kids, and they have a swing set and a playground on it, and my kids love to go over there and swing, and that buys me like 10 to 15 minutes of time. So again, you've got to look at what you have around you. And sometimes with my kids, like if we're having a really, really rough day, like you said, it's like, okay, we're going on a walk. Like we're all just going on a walk and they might not want to, but the moment that they're on it, you can just see all that tense energy just comes down. Even if you have to pull them in a wagon, like you're just all outside.
You're going.
You're
Um,
going.
So I hear you say community. I hear you say look around for the resources that you can connect with. And I hear you say don't be afraid to ask for support. Sam, this has been so amazing. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another Women Work Well chat. We will see you next time. And in the meantime, be well.
Thank you.